Alright guys, it's been a long day, but buckle up, we have tons more news. Yeah, that's right, we're going full Guild Wars 2 news kiosk mode this week. And today I will talk a little bit about the scrapper, but not too much, despite the fact that, yes, ArenaNet's official blog post did come out. However, let's start off with a little bit of news from that shaman in the world of Datamining. Nothing too major, but there is this video you can see in the background now, which hopefully is okay with me showing, which demonstrates the numerous varieties of Adolescent Women we'll find in Heart of Thorns. Now, a lot of these actually already appeared, or at least 3 of them, I think, appeared in the beta that we've already got to play, and you can actually find there are several more versions than that. Put this in perspective, guys, of the fact we had a large number of Tengu also, and Tengu really haven't even been confirmed to be a big part of the expansion. Like, no real stories necessarily been written about them in the jungle, as we've had, say, the Nuhark or the Yitzhak and so on, but we've got a lot of varieties, and the same with the Wyvern here too. I like that. You know, the one perk I see that's a nice benefit to having kind of a smaller scope expansion as we do is ArenaNet still at least have a wide variety of mobs in there. So even if you're in the same map, you're going to see lots of different types of Wyverns as you explore, and it should keep things fresh. Not only would these be reskins in theory, but each Wyvern would then have a different kind of mechanic or ability. We already see that, like the electric ones will have different breath attacks to the fiery ones, and so on. Then to think that each of these adolescent varieties also has a Big Daddy variety? Yeah, that's a nice thought. Don't forget that the original quotes we heard about the Wyvern when the first one was revealed back in February of this year, when ArenaNet invited various community members out to a couple of events to show off Heart of Thorns. We kind of heard that there would be a lot of Wyvern fights. You know, the first one would be maybe a big open platform where there's little risk in the terrain. Then maybe there's one that takes place high in the sky, as we saw, where you can get knocked off and you'd have to glide into updrafts to get back up. Perhaps there's one a little later on a smaller platform, and smaller still until things get really quite challenging. So many varieties of Wyvern. I just hope we see this continue with all the enemies they're adding in these maps, and this will all tie into making Heart of Thorns, even though we're not getting that much explorable space, feel like really awesome explorable space to go out and discover. Moving on, the next bit of news, speaking about February and, you know, early announcements and stuff to do with Heart of Thorns, the official release trailer for the game will be visible at TwitchCon. So behind the scenes, ArenaNet have been talking a lot about TwitchCon preparing stuff, and it seems like this is kind of their big announcement for this show that they are going to be at. And this should be quite an important trailer. A lot of you guys are already quite entrenched in the news cycle, and following Heart of Thorns will already be familiar with a lot of trailers we've already have and a lot of the information. But often it's the release trailer that is very important for the success of the game. This is the primary one, as long as it's done well, that people will see. This release trailer can include stuff like the footage we saw from guild halls and decorations being used. It can include comprehensive footage of all of the elite specializations, not just Verdant Brink, as we've classically seen a lot of, but the later maps too, more than just that section of the Auric Basin, even the final map, and yes, of course, Morgemoth too. And so for this reason, because it's a trailer of like a much more complete product, it can show off the more badass stuff and be better at advertising, better at doing its job. So we actually saw ArenaNet attempted this with a regular Guild Wars 2. That's what you're looking at in the background. Yeah, that's a Guild Wars 2 trailer. We talked about this recently on the channel. While the idea of going live action for it was very exciting, I remember a few teasers the devs threw out before it came out. You know, it was really thrilling to think of a live action trailer. You got to remember Guild Wars 2 never even did any CGI trailers, as we saw the first game did, and that was, you know, that was the best possible scenario. I remember some live action trailers from the Halo franchise that made me feel very inappropriate things as a nerd way back when. And, you know, I love the thought of Guild Wars going in that direction too, but the trailer was a massive flop. It seemed to have been outsourced to a company that really didn't understand very much of what was going on. They went with this weird break-the-mold, air of pretension idea that Guild Wars 2 was going to be super different. And overall, just a sad experience for all around. You know, a lot of money would have been spent on it, a lot of passion would have been behind it on some level, and unfortunately, it just didn't resonate with the community when it came out. The other big problem was after they kind of did this awkward transition into in-game gameplay, they revealed to us what Zaitan looked like, and for many people that was one of the reasons to play the personal story, to see that big reveal of the character at the end, and then, oh, we just saw it in the official trailer and people felt kind of spoiled, which is something I agree with. So what do you think we'll see with the Heart of Thorns release trailer? I doubt it will go live action again. I think they've probably been soured to the idea. I would like them to try live action once more at some point. But I think what we're going to see most likely is a trailer similar to the original. But also remember that when we finished Living World Season 2, we got what they called the Easter egg trailer, which really wasn't an Easter egg at all. We just got 2 of them back to back. But this Easter egg trailer was kind of like an interesting concept arty, new cinematic style we haven't seen much of before. And in their teaser, it's certainly seems like this could be what they're going for the release trailer. I just want to see more badass stuff, and I want to see that trailer include so many more of the features we've now heard about. You know, the char cars, now that they've got their full animations, the airship strikes in World vs. World, yeah, the decorations being dropped down as we saw on the Guildhall trailer, and so much more. There are so many cool little snippets that this could sell a lot of copies of the game. I hope they do it well. And for what it's worth, I wouldn't mind too badly if we did get another sneak peek of the final boss, the Dragon Morgemoth, as long as he looks badass enough. So, moving on, let's not linger too much on mistakes of the past in the old live-action trailer. On Reddit, it was kind of funny, there was a bit of a comment chain, people reminding of, you know, all the mistakes ArenaNet have made with various advertising things before. There was a taxi cab campaign, which was an okay idea, but felt kind of cringy to watch in retrospect. They had the Guild Wars 2 Oath Confessionals, where they had people pledge this oath to the game. And even, you may have forgotten about this, it was the Tower of Nightmares trailer that just had a full-on bizarre metal soundtrack going on in the background that really didn't make very much sense, and also was not received particularly well. But moving on, I want to talk about Super Adventure Box. Almost yesterday, guys, there was an incredibly awesome video on my channel that you guys would have loved. It would have been called Super Adventure Box Returns! Exclamation mark, and then maybe like a question mark. And why? Well, no, Super Adventure Box hasn't returned. Don't misunderstand me. There is no news about Super Adventure Box. Nothing official has come from ArenaNet. But a very interesting thing happened to a player who found their account under a very obscure set of circumstances. See, one of the free-to-play weekend events that ArenaNet did a long time ago, of course now a thing of the past because there are free-to-play accounts all the way through the year, one was running many moons ago during the second Super Adventure Box update. And what this person seems to have done is been invited to play Guild Wars 2 by their friend during this free-to-play weekend, and specifically because their friend was like, hey, you should come play GW2, Super Adventure Box is awesome, come jump on in. And so this person made a free-to-play account, logged into Guild Wars 2, never leveled their character very high, and that's important, I'll explain that in a second, and went into the Super Adventure Box. One day, they logged out, still in the Super Adventure Box, and left it there. Never logged back into Guild Wars 2 since. So now the way that the devs have always worked with this kind of stuff, when it comes to exclusive areas that will only be available during certain events, so take the Mad King's Labyrinth, for example, during Halloween. The way that Guild Wars 2 functions is that if you log out in the Mad King's Labyrinth on one of your characters, they'll still be there today. So, you know, it could be April, it could be months after the Mad King's Labyrinth has been out, and you can log into that character, you'll be thrown onto that loading screen and dropped into the instance. But the second you fully load in, the devs will then automatically detect that you're in a place you shouldn't be, and they will teleport you out. And in this way, we can't play stuff like Super Adventure Box or the Mad King's Labyrinth unless ArenaNet tells us so. And, you know, they flag it as the currently active event. Now, here's the interesting thing. The way it teleports you out of those areas, mechanically, is it's waypointing you. It's picking the most recent known waypoint you were at in the regular world, not the Mad King Labyrinth, and it's moving you to that. But what's wrong with that, you ask, Gw2 Potatoes? Well, here's the funny thing. What this person had was an account that was a free-to-play account in Super Adventure Box and so low level that the account wasn't qualified for using waypoints. And so when they loaded into Super Adventure Box, the game fired its flag to say, oh, we got to remove this person from this instance, but because the account to stop botters was absolutely not allowed to waypoint, they were stuck. And so this weird set of events led to someone yesterday actually able to play the Super Adventure Box for the first time in well over a year. They posted a video about it, some screenshots about it. It was all very exciting. Very shortly after this Reddit thread appeared, a friend of mine in my guild mentioned it to me, and we hatched a plan. See, maybe using teleport to a friend items available from Black Lion chests, this person in the Super Adventure Box, if you partied on them, you could teleport to a friend inside. That would be pretty cool, right? Then I could be in Super Adventure Box and I could make a video for you guys. The idea was thrilling to me. I set out on the plan, but there were a lot of restrictions, a lot of problems. Number one, if I was on my NA account and I tried to join his party and use a teleport to a friend, I couldn't because he was playing on EU. So I had to go on an EU account. Number two, if I was on a paid EU account, then it also wouldn't work because I would be allowed to use waypoints, I would teleport to a friend in, and then it would teleport me out straight away. So that wouldn't work. I needed a free-to-play EU account. And not only that, I needed a free-to-play EU account that didn't level very high. The last problem was the fact that to get a teleport to a friend, you can't actually just buy them directly off the gem store, you have to get them out of Black Lion chests. So I had a friend send me Black Lion chests specifically from his NA account to this new EU free-to-play account. I couldn't buy gems within Game Gold. I had to actually bust out the credit card, buy gems in this manner. Then I had to get a bunch of keys, open, and hopefully, luckily, out of one of these Black Lion chests, get a teleport to a friend, party on him, and finally I'd get into Super Adventure Books and I'd be able to show it for you guys. Because of this long, complicated process, not a single soul, aside from the person who made the original Reddit thread, actually managed to get in on that day. I was very close. I was in the middle of opening the Black Lion chest, just waiting for the teleport to a friend to come out, and unfortunately, it was at this point that our story comes to its sad end. A moderator found out about the guy in Super Adventure Box and kicked him from the instance out to Ratasum right after, basically, I spent the money to buy the gems. Ouch. So that was a whole thing last night. I was really excited to do that for you guys, but yeah, it's an interesting thing, and it does technically mean, this isn't just true for Super Adventure Box, this is true for a lot of other stuff, and future betas, it's not really relevant anymore because we're only getting one beta, and the way you'd have to do it is kind of weird, but this could lead to some weird interactions going forward for the game, and maybe ArenaNet need to look into that just a little. Pretty fascinating, though. Next, we have a couple of dev posts over on Reddit that I want to talk about. First is to do with a supposedly hidden thing in Lion's Arch. Now, a player made a post about a well-known Easter egg in Harathi hinterlands to do with a ghostly Doliac in a cave in the southeast. Maybe you guys have heard of it. But, they were ranting about how cool this Easter egg was and wanting to find hidden things. To which Alexander Youngblood, a Guild Wars 2 developer, said this: "Alright, I'll give you one. There's something in LA that has a hidden function." Okay, Alexander, what does that mean exactly? This is an interesting post. We're going to assume straight away, that can sound very exciting, because you might assume, oh, right, this dev knows everything that the community generally knows, and he's saying there's something still hidden out there. Well, maybe this is something really basic. Maybe we shouldn't go crazy and conspiracy theory and think that there is some huge new thing in the new LA that nobody's seen yet. Maybe he's just talking about something basic we all already know. The fact, as many people have pointed out, the fact that the inn opens at night, as a part of the Kaka hunt. Some people don't know about that. Most of us in the community too. Could he be talking about that? Is he maybe talking about, the fact that you can ectoplasm gamble with the script guy, and if you do it enough, you get an item that gives you a free merchant for use anywhere? Maybe he's talking about the hidden entrance to the Chantry of Secrets, the fact that you turn into the anomaly at the Mystic Forge, the fact that there is a way to get swiftness during the jumping puzzle if you bring butter to the chef on top of the lobster. Maybe he's talking about the fact that there's a hidden Asura gate beneath the Black Lion Trading Company vaults, or maybe it is something totally new, like the existence of a hidden lion. We don't know, but it's kind of an interesting idea, and I guess if you've really got nothing else to do, maybe have a bit of a run around in Lion's Arch and see what comes up. On a similar note as well, probably John Smith also confirmed in a similar thread that there are indeed still Mystic Forge recipes in Guild Wars 2 that have not been discovered by any player yet. This was talked about quite a while ago. When you really dive into this topic, it seems like they're probably quite boring, mundane Mystic Forge recipes that have just never been used. So like festival items and tearing them up or tearing them down, or, various stuff like that. But maybe it's something slightly more exciting. The most exciting thing we can possibly think of is some kind of a recipe that will produce a weapon like Mjolnir or Volcanus or one of these badass exotics with unique skins. That said, I find that very highly unlikely, and it's probably just something minor. That's about it, guys. Now, there is the official blog post for the Scrapper, the Engineer Elite Specialization. However, tomorrow, there'll be a huge live stream, Points of Interest, where they go over every little nuance of this class. But just to keep you in the loop for today, since we're here anyway, I will explain some of the most exciting stuff about this that was revealed, is essentially the gyros. When you are a Scrapper, your press F mechanic while in combat, so like press F to res an ally, press F to finish a foe, that actually changes to having your gyros completing those actions for you. That's right, so you can be standing at range, apparently, and by using F, you can send your gyro off to go stomp someone, send your gyro off to go res someone, like the search and rescue ability on the Ranger, or various things like that. Send your gyros to specifically go to people with high amounts of conditions on them to cleanse them, allowing this kind of more interesting play. This would be the second example, for what it's worth, of a finisher on an elite specialization or a player skill, the first one being on the Daredevil's Elite. They also revealed that the Elite Gyro for the Engineer is something that will perma-stealth players around it, but not itself. Very similar to the way that Nika works as a Mist champion you can summon in the new game type Stronghold. And so this leads to some interesting ideas too, as to what if you had two Elite Stealth Gyros next to one another? Do they then stealth each other? I would argue, actually, mechanically, it sounds like they should stealth one another. And what that would mean is 2 scrappers can perma-stealth one another and move under a cloak of darkness. That might sound completely ridiculously overpowered, but the truth is that with just 1 thief and a party that knows how to blast, you can perma-stealth an entire team of 5 people anyway. It's just more of an active role. You also have to consider that if you're doing 2 scrappers with 2 gyros, then that's already 4 targets of the 5 target cap being used, which means you can only have 2 scrappers plus 1 other player before, anyone else comes in is then going to start causing de-stealthing to happen. That could still be used to some very powerful effects, particularly in places like Wild vs. Wild, though, where maybe, in theory, you can have 2 scrappers perma-stealthing themselves with a Mesmer. And what the Mesmer can then do is, under this lovely amount of stealth, casually set up portals for large flanks and big attacks through which the entire Zerg can then attack later. Some people are saying that's overpowered at first glance. I think that's some really interesting gameplay. And do consider as well that there are more anti-stealth options for the classes now than we've seen in the game before. I don't know, we'll have to see. But there you go, guys. That's just a little bit on the Scrapper. Definitely a huge look tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're all having a great day. So much news in Guild Wars 2 this week. I gotta say, of everything I said today, I'm most interested in the new release trailer. But we'll see how that goes. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you next time.